Hey, how are you? Ran into a fan down in Aiken, South Carolina. He's also a Shanghai Sharks fan, and he's also a polo fan. He's going to take me to play polo for the first time in my life. And I'm a lefty. I don't know if that complicates things.
Polo is played with your right hand.
Oh, okay.
But we steer with our left hand, so you're doing out.
Okay, yeah. I don't have as good hand-eye coordination with my right hand,
That's okay.
so we'll see what happens.
Chill. Let's get it. Just got on vacation. It feel good to be back like MJ and 4-5. I'm live. I was chilling with the baddest woman you ever seen. Chocolate vanilla, Asian persuasion. So amazing, the drip is immaculate. She want the truth but can't handle half of it. When you eating like this, ain't no choosing up. We the kings of the culture, they choosing us. They say I'm cocky, true enough. We the iciest, y'all ain't cool enough. The freeze is liabilities, y'all dying over chains. Lames is killing me. I'd rather see a girl make her cake clap to the rhythm of the drum ASAP. No Rocky, tell me who can stop me. I'm all about the green, spinach and broccoli. Chill. We're just getting started. Okay. Let me see you work. Yeah. They wasn't ready. Okay. Look.
And that's a polo game.
Yep.
Time to take off the boot. Hey, how are you? I'm at my first professional polo match at the Aiken Polo Club. It might be semi-pro, I don't know. I'm gonna watch the game, learn about the sport, talk to some polo players, have a couple beverages. It's gonna be a good day. Take it down. Swag. I'm here with three polo enthusiasts. Before this weekend, I knew nothing about the sport, and I was just hoping you guys could tell me a little bit about it. Are you guys more or less professional?
Semi-pro.
Semi-pro. How about you?
I'm full professional.
How does one get into polo? Do you have to be born into like a horse family, or?
I would say yes. I would say that you definitely have to be born in a horse family. There are some kids that do it without their parental help and without coming up in the sport. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, if you don't grow up riding, then you're already a step back. And if you don't grow up playing polo, then you're 2 steps back.
I mean, and there's a lot of kids that come in that are from team owner families, so they have like kind of a leg up on the other guys. But it's guys like that come from the bottom that tend to go farther because they have the grit.
Grit. That's definitely important in polo because I see out there it's kind of a violent sport. There's a lot of horse-to-horse collision. Oh, hip check. The horses are allowed to shoulder check each other, right? What are some other rules of the game that you think most people wouldn't know, and like what sort of contact is allowed?
Well, I'll start with a mallet. For starters, you don't hit it on the end like a croquet mallet. You hit it on the side. So that takes, everybody thinks polo is so hard. Everybody that comes out tries to learn it. They're always trying to hit it on the top of it. You don't hit it there. You hit it on the side. So that's one thing. Another, a defensive play is obviously the bump, which is the shoulder-to-shoulder contact. It is a contact sport. And then as well as the hook, which is you hook another player's mallet when they're swinging at the ball.
Okay.
Which in most sports is illegal when you're talking about stick sports, but in polo it's 100% legal.
Wait, so you can hook the other person's stick and pull it away?
Reach out and when they're going to hit the ball, and you try to redirect their mallet in the opposite way so it doesn't make contact with the ball.
Have any of you three ever been seriously injured playing polo, or what's the most common injury?
Concussions, 100%. Yeah.
Just from falling off the horse?
Like coming off, yeah.
Yeah, concussions are broken clavicles.
Yeah. When I tried to play polo, it's like sometimes if you might miss the ball and you're going to hit your own horse with the mallet or hit one of the other horses with the mallet. Does that happen a bunch?
It does, and it gets in a game that's blown as a foul. It's dangerous use of the mallet. Okay. So if you connect with your horse or someone else's horse, they blow it immediately, just for the safety of the equine partners.
So how does each game start?
So each game starts with a bowling from the center of the field.
Yeah.
And the umpire lines both teams up, each team facing the goal that they're attacking. And basically it's like the umpire bowls the ball down the middle of the two teams, and it just, both teams collide on each other and trying to get the ball.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a scrum in rugby, but instead of placing the ball, the umpire throws the ball.
Okay. Are there positions in polo?
Yeah, so there's 1 through 4. Usually the 1 is the one that's going out front with the ball. That's usually the sponsor of the team, right? The person that's paying to be in the tournament. They've hired their pros. They think this is a winning team. They're the one that you want to score the goals, right? So they kind of stay farther towards the opposing goal so they can score. And then the 2 is usually the guy that's going to take out the best player on the other team. So he's going to be your dog that's going to go run around and make plays for you to allow the best player on the team the most opportunity with the ball. The 3 is the captain of the team. He's usually the best player, and he wants to command the play and hit the ball to the 1 so that they can put goals on the board. And then the 4 is back, which is that's probably the most important part of your team, is having a solid back, because when the play turns and horses are everything in this sport, and your play, it's 20% player, 80% horse. And so when the play turns, whoever's got the better horse going to that ball, that's the one that's gonna get there first, obviously. And to have a good back that's gonna be able to get to that and take that man out, whether it be a bump or a hook, to leave the ball for the next player, that's the most important aspect of it.
What would you say is the hardest aspect of playing polo? Like, I'm just seeing people going full speed gallop, having to hit a bouncing ball. Oh! Whiffed it. That's what looks the hardest to me, but you would know better.
I mean, the bouncing ball is one of the most difficult aspects of the game, but there's a lot of different one of the most important things in polo is anticipation and positioning, because if you say you get your horse turned faster, you see the play develop, you can beat that next guy back to the play. So, I mean, the most challenging position I would have to say is offensively, because your mindset is strictly offensive, and it depends on you, like, for goals to be scored, So, like, you have to be good at carrying a bouncing ball. You have to be good at, like, avoiding hooks and knowing what to do, like how to take a bump and keep the ball and things like that.
We're watching a game right now, and one thing that is blowing my mind is you have like a 14-year-old girl and a 40-year-old man on the same team. That has to be the only sport where that happens. Can you explain why that is?
You have people starting very young, and then you can play into your later years because it's all about the horsepower that you have.
So it's such a unique skill set that it's like, hey, if you're really good on a horse, then you can play with the best of them out there.
Right.
There's like, it doesn't really matter about your size, your age. If you're a dude or a chick, it's like if you can handle yourself on a horse, you have the potential to be a really good polo player.
100%.
What's the business model of the sport usually? So there's a very wealthy owner of the team, and then he kind of funds the whole team, and that person is how you guys get paid?
Right. So there's always a sponsor for a team, and the sponsor pays the 3 pros. Usually, in most polo you play at the medium to low goal level, which is what all of us 3 play. It's a sponsor that pays the head pro, which is usually the highest rated player on the team, and then then you have your lower goal players that fill out the team. And so but the team sponsor, they carry the team, they carry the costs, and inevitably they carry the win.
Yeah, I heard the owner of one of these teams is the guy that's been on Southern Charmed.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Not one of these teams that's out here right now, but one of the teams in the earlier game, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the head guy on Southern Charm.
Yeah, or was the head guy until he ran into a little bit of legal trouble.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do this as a full-time job, you kind of travel around the U.S. on a polo circuit. Where does that polo circuit usually go? I know Aiken is one of those spots, but where else is polo huge in the U.S.?
So the spring and fall is usually Aiken and Houston. and then there's some stuff out in California as well. For the summer, it's there's 3 major hubs, which is Greenwich, Connecticut, Santa Barbara, California, as well as Denver, Colorado. And then there's also, for the summer, it's like probably the biggest, the most spread out season, because there's so many other clubs up and down the East Coast, up and down the West Coast, in the middle of the country, and mid-states, everything like that. And then in the winter, it usually hubs around Indio, California, and Wellington, Florida, and Palm Beach.
My favorite place to play so far is actually not in the States, it's in Argentina. But in the States, I'd probably say my favorite place is Wellington.
Speaking of Argentina, I've heard that they're kind of hands down the best polo players on earth. Is there any truth to that?
He'd know more than I would.
I mean, yeah, they have huge Argentine polo playing families. It's like, if you think about it, the Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods of polo, you would say they're both Argentine. So you could say that they have the best polo players in the world. But there have been American 10-goal players that have. I mean, it's who's to say who's the best and who's not, because every player is different, but it's settled on the field.
Hey, you guys are surprisingly down to earth. Like, I didn't know what to expect if I met a polo guy. Maybe I just seen like a polo guy in a movie. Like, are there any movies that feature douchebag polo riders?
Britney Spears music video, Radar. Okay. That says it all. Yeah.
What do you guys have to say to people who think like, oh, polo is just like a rich boy sissy sport?
Check my bank account, hon.
With your horses, do you guys form a crazy tight bond with them?
You kind of have to, because, you know, when you're out there on the field, you need to know how much your horse is going to give you. Some horses will get tired on you sooner. Some horses will last longer, right? So if you know that going into it, you pick your plays and you know what you can get done. You know what your horse is capable of. And if the horse trusts you, they'll go to anything for you. They'll go to the ends of the earth to get you where you want to go, where you ask them to go.
And if you know your horse, I saw that you can actually sub your horse out. So if you feel your horse getting a little tired, unlike in another sport where you physically have to take a break, you can just let your horse leave and you bring in your substitute horse. So do most players out there have at least one waiting on the sidelines that they can change in?
The overall rule is if you're a pro playing in, like what we're seeing today, is 4-chucker polo. So it's 4 periods, and usually that pro would bring 6 horses to the field. And he'd bring 4 main playing ones, and then he'd bring 2 spares. So the 2 spares, they sit on either end line, whatever the pro chooses. And when the main horse for that period gets tired, they switch it out with the spare. And usually a spare will be the spare for 2 periods. So for 2 chuckers. So you'll park it out on the end line. You have somebody holding it, and then you run off after either a goal or a foul is called. If you're really desperate, you run off during the play. Don't advise it, but if you're really desperate. But when the horse is tired, they let you know. They tell you. They stop giving to you. You can tell when your horse is weathered. So you take it off, you switch onto your new one, and then you come back out. And then when you're done with that spare, you take it right back, and the guy holding your spare on the sideline, he grabs it again. So generally, and then in 6-chucker polo, you would bring 8 horses to the field.
If you want to learn more about polo, you can go to uspolo.org, and that's like the generalized website for polo in the United States, and they have everything you need to know there.
Sweet. Would you guys ever play buzkashi? I don't know if you know, that's headless goat polo. It's played in Tajikistan and Afghanistan.
I've seen the video, yeah. If I had enough beers in me, I would.
Yeah. I don't know, you might have to be on something stronger than beers to go play that. That's 100 people on horseback, every man for himself. There's no teams.